One thing I love about the Gospels is that they get a lot of difficult historical facts correct, things that it would be unlikely for them to get right if they weren't close up to the facts. Let's get into it. I'm just going to say you've probably never heard a sermon on the verse we're going to discuss today, but it does contain a really cool historical nugget that points to the fact that Matthew is reporting accurate history within his gospel account. For a little bit of background, King Herod overhears the Magi talking about the fact that Jesus, the King of the Jews, is being born. And so he tells them, hey, why don't you go find out where this child is born, and I want to go worship him too. And so the Magi, they go and they leave and they find Jesus and they worship him, but they know that King Herod was not really going to worship Jesus. So they went a different way. And then later on, Herod finds out that he's been tricked by the Magi, and so he has all of the boys in Bethlehem under the age of 2 slaughtered. But thankfully, before this happened, an angel came to Mary and Joseph and warned them and said, you need to go hide out in Egypt because King Herod is coming to try to kill Jesus. Later on, after Herod died, an angel once again appeared to Joseph and told him, okay, King Herod is dead, the one seeking after your life is gone. You can now once again return to Israel. And that's all the background we need for our verse that we're going to discuss today. Matthew chapter 2, verses 21 and 22. So Joseph got up, took the child and his mother, and came into the land of Israel. But when he heard that Archelaus was reigning over Judea in place of his father Herod, he was afraid to go there. Then, after being warned by God in a dream, he left for the regions of Galilee. So why was Joseph afraid of Archelaus? Thankfully, the answer is preserved for us in the writings of Josephus. Soon after King Herod died in 4 BC, Archelaus lost control of a crowd of Jews who had gathered in Jerusalem for Passover. The Jews stoned the men that Archelaus sent to calm them down. So Archelaus sent his men to surround the temple and gave these orders: don't let anyone outside go in, and don't let anyone inside go out. And they slaughtered 3,000 Jews in the temple. Passover was canceled that year. And after that, the Jews petitioned to Caesar Augustus for someone else to rule over them. And Archelaus hunted down the men who created that petition and had them killed. We see that Mary, Joseph, and Jesus are making their way back into Israel. And who are they met by? A bunch of Jews who are distraught, saying Archelaus is a murderous maniac. He just slaughtered 3,000 Jews in the temple. Passover is canceled. And so obviously they're going to head out and be afraid because there's a homicidal maniac killing Jews in Judea. Here are a couple other historical nuggets that are found within these 2 short verses in Matthew chapter 2. Number 1, King Herod's kingdom was divided between Archelaus, his brother, and his half-brother. And yes, Archelaus was reigning over Judea, just like Matthew chapter 2 says. Here's a second fact. Archelaus was never given the title of king. He was given a lesser title, ethnarch. And Caesar Augustus basically said that if he proved himself as a good leader, he would be given that higher title of king later on. And he never actually received that title, and he was deposed about 10 years later. And Matthew chapter 2 never mentions that Archelaus was king. It's very interesting that it just says he was reigning over Judea, which is historically accurate because he was never actually called king. And hopefully we can see with facts like this contained within the Gospels that the apostles did not see themselves as able to just make up details. They were actually trying to share eyewitness testimony and accurate history. And then we have to begin to ask ourselves, is it really likely that Matthew would get small details like this right, but then on the big stuff like the resurrection of Christ, he would get all that wrong and he would just be making it up? I don't know about you, but I find that explanation to be highly suspect. Thank you so much for watching this video. This is just a small detail within a cumulative case for why we should trust the Gospels. I hope you enjoyed it. Give it a thumbs up if you did. Subscribe to the channel if you're new and you want more content like this. This has been The Epitome. I'm your host, Nathan Bozeman. We'll see you around.